Leo was rescuing a drowning woman when his hand accidentally brushed against her hip. She had him publicly humiliated and even stabbed his hand, never realizing he was the surgeon her own son was dying without. Now, Dr. Leo pointed at the tycoon's wife. The hospital corridor was in chaos. The tycoon was furious. His only son, Connor, was lying in a bed, waiting for life-saving surgery. His own wife had just crippled the lead surgeon's hand moments before the operation. The woman collapsed to her knees, sobbing. She had no idea the man she had branded a creep was the genius doctor they had spent half their fortune to hire. That doctor was Leo. The chief's face went pale. Connor had a rare congenital heart defect, an almost impossible condition to treat. At Mercy Medical Center, a century-old institution, only Leo could perform that level of surgery. Now his most precious hand had been stabbed by the patient's own family. That meant Connor's mother had single-handedly destroyed her son's only lifeline. Just hours earlier, the woman had fallen into the river. Leo risked his own life to pull her out, but she and her friend labeled him a pervert. They humiliated him, forced him to be paraded around, and scrawled insults all over his body. In the chaos, the woman had even slashed his hand with a knife. She thought she was serving justice. She had no clue she was annihilating her son's last hope. Faced with the crowd's condemnation and his wife's tearful regret, the tycoon issued an ultimatum. He begged Leo to save his son no matter what. He promised that the moment the surgery ended, he would personally send his wife and her friend to jail. But under the weight of pain and humiliation, Leo just said he would save the child. The chief warned him that his hand was already overworked and freshly wounded. If he forced himself through the surgery, he could lose the use of that hand permanently, or even endanger his own life. But Leo had made up his mind. The lights came on, but the couple made an outrageous demand. They didn't trust the doctor and feared he might seek revenge during the operation. They insisted on wearing sterile gowns and standing inside the to monitor his every move. For the child's sake, the chief made an exception. The surgery began. Gloved and precise, Leo worked on the boy. But under the intense strain, his injured hand started shaking uncontrollably. Fresh blood quickly soaked through his surgical glove. He had to stop. Another surgeon stepped in to take over. In that split-second handoff, the monitor screamed. Blood backflow. Cardiac arrest. Everything went south fast. The same woman who had been terrified of retaliation just moments ago completely lost it. She charged forward and yelled at Leo to keep operating immediately. She even pulled out her phone and started recording. She shrieked that if anything happened to her son, she would expose them all for letting him die. The woman who had already ruined the surgeon's future was now using public opinion to force him to pull off an impossible miracle with a ruined hand. Gritting against the agony, Leo picked up the scalpel to save the boy. Outside the the woman was still raging. She threatened to burn the whole hospital down with her. The chief tried to mediate, but every word fell flat against such unreasonable family members. The boy's father promised that if the doctor could save his son, he would agree to any terms, but Leo's hand was already trembling beyond control. His colleagues knew there was no way he could last, yet the family kept pushing. The father even personally pulled sterile gloves onto Leo's hands. This was a rescue under coercion. A female colleague stood by, preparing for the worst. If Leo collapsed during the surgery, she would take over at once. The surgical lights blazed down. Minutes dragged like hours. Everyone held their breath. Finally, the surgery was a success. The moment they confirmed the patient's vitals were stable, Leo's great nerve snapped. He collapsed to the floor, every ounce of energy spent. Meanwhile, the boy's father, Mr. Hartford, was